A little run through of all the abilities that Briar has. So check it out. What we're going to be doing is comparing her to Warwick and to Darius mostly, as far as like what the stat profiles look like. The first thing we're going to see is health 590 to 2290, armor 32 like this. If you compare this to someone like Darius, just going to be weaker across the board. All right, all of Darius's stats. So she will never keep up with a Juggernaut as far as like raw stats. This is worth noting. Now, she doesn't have mana. That's a wonderful bonus to her, right? But as you go further down, you're going to see her base attack speed, 0.66, not awful. Her attack speed ratio is worse, but slightly worse. They're basically saying, don't buy attack speed items on her, all right? And it's basically saying because she has so much bonus AD ratios in her kit, you want everything possible to go there. Now, that being said, you are stacking up her passive for the bleeds, but the extra stacks don't really do that much. So when we're talking about why are we comparing to Darius? Well, the first ability is going to be Crimson Curse. You see a little bit of a profile of what she's doing, right? Not very utility oriented, but move fast, deal damage, and hold people in place. Like pick one fight and pick it. She's very good at that situation. So the reason she's like Darius: Crimson Curse. Briar's basic attacks and abilities inflict a bleed against enemies for 5 seconds, refreshing on subsequent applications, stacking up to 9 times, dealing 25% damage for stacks beyond the first. So basically, one full stack, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 small, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 small again, right? And any of this damage is going to heal you for 25% of the pre-mitigation damage, which is why it's so important to have that high bonus AD. And she will heal herself for 100% of the remaining damage if the target dies. All right. Briar has no base health regeneration, but she increases healing from all sources by 0 to 50%. Now, I could do a video about how I prefer that they would make champions and not role champions. But this is the caveat that says this champion needs to be in the jungle. She has no base regen, and she has stats that are worse than Juggernauts. If you go up into top lane, it will do nothing for you. Also, no base health regen means that you can't buy any health regen items, like a rejuvenation bead. Plus 100% of 0 is still 0. So rejuve bead actually does nothing for this champion. It is very important to know that. And when we're considering builds, we're always going to be looking at that. So compare this to Darius. Darius, passive, hemorrhage, same numbers, except for he does it on, same thing, basic attacks and abilities, but each stack is a full stack. Whereas hers, the first one is a little bit bigger, but then she needs to get multiple subsequent ones. Basically, on 2 hits from Darius, they're already bleeding harder than on 2 hits from Briar, and every hit that Darius does thereafter will be even more, okay? So that's one thing that we're going to be considering going in. She needs to be sticky. She needs to be able to stick to her targets. Next, we're going to look at Head Rush. All right. All of her abilities cost current health percent-wise. All right. So stacking HP is going to be less effective than stacking resistances. Also, the fact that she's healing so much, we're going to talk about that. Cooldown 13 down to 9. All right, 9 is one of those like magical numbers where if you get high ability haste, you can chop this down to the 5 region, and that makes it usable multiple times in combat very easily. Cast time is none, so instantaneous. Target range is 450. Briar leaps to the target unit. If the target is an enemy, she deals physical damage, stuns them for almost a second, and inflicts armor reduction. Okay. Now, a couple things to notice about that. One, it has a very high or a decently high bonus AD ratio. Okay, so all the things that you're doing will cast on this, it will be good. The scaling, 40 damage, not so bad. All right, but not something that we're looking to rush. It's front loaded. All right, the bonus AD ratio is already there. This is a scaling thing though. But getting 60 at the first level and 40 in subsequent levels, getting 10 at the first level and 4 in subsequent levels. The cooldown only going down by 1 second. This is a front-loaded ability. So this tends to be an indicator that you only want to put 1 point in it until later. Also worth noting, target unit. So you can target anything, including your own melee, your own minions. All right? You can go to anything. You can even go to blast cones and whatnot. And with a target range of 450, this means you will be able to jump over walls to get things. All right? That's going to be a big deal for knowing what's going to happen. Now, the bread and butter for this ability, for this champion, is Blood Frenzy. Okay, Blood Frenzy is like a small essay to read. I can't even fit it all on one page, so we'll scroll through it. 6% of current health, cooldown 14 down to 10, no cast time. The target range is the minimum distance to the maximum distance. All right, basically it's always going to go at least 75, meaning that if a champion's right on you, you're basically going to hop over them. This also means that there's a little bit of a travel time associated with it, and then it's going to look to connect, and this is the speed. So there's a little bit of travel time based on how far you're going, but you're basically going to try to go to the max distance or whatever you collide with. Now, if you're jumping across terrain with this, then there's a chance, you make it at least halfway over, then it'll push you the rest away. It's interesting on this with the 650, it's saying that you can actually go like halfway on a 300 bar. This means that we should be able to get pretty far over terrain, but we'll confirm that once we go into the training tool. Briar dashes to the target location. If there's a nearby enemy upon her arrival, she gains Blood Frenzy for 5 seconds, during which she can cast Sneak Attack. Okay, Sneak Attack is like the empowered ability here. Let's scroll this down a little bit. Blood Frenzy. Briar breaks free from her pillory, turning berserk against the nearest enemy. She reveals the target and gains ghosting, which means that she can walk through units, bonus attack speed, and bonus movement speed, as well as empowering her basic attacks to deal physical damage to enemies surrounding her target, so AoE. The damage is affected by critical strike modifiers, okay? So you can add crit strike modifiers and deal extra damage with this champion. Something that we might look into is how good something like Infinity Edge, because she's really just going to be the stat check champion, and if there's a stat check item, that would be it. But we're going to look at all the potential builds as well. Bonus attack speed, super front loaded, all right, 60 going up to 120. Bonus movement speed, also front loaded, but these things are very, very important for how you're going to scale out through the game, and the physical damage, the extra AD that you're getting. Okay, this looks like her bread and butter ability, the one that we're going to max. It's important for jungling to have this first 100%. The Berserk has a big downside, though, that you cannot get out of it without casting one of your other abilities. Briar prioritizes attacking champions, then large monsters, and then minions. If she casts Head Rush on a minion or large monster, she will shift her target priority to large monsters, then minions, then champions. Okay? So if you're in the middle of a fight and you want to use your Q to get away, you can get away. You'll still be in Berserk, but it'll move you to that target. All right, so you can dodge some skill shots with this, kind of like a Rengar jumping through bushes. Blood Frenzy ends early if there are no longer any nearby valid targets or Chilling Stream is cast. All right, so this is her E. Blood Frenzy resets Briar's basic attack timer. Head Rush and Certain Death can be cast during the dash. Okay, so you can actually attack, you can lead in with attack plus W, right? Just immediate, boom, boom. Sneak Attack, next portion. Cast time none. This is another auto reset that you have. Active. Briar empowers her next basic attack within 5 seconds during Blood Frenzy to take a bite out of the target enemy, having an uncancelable windup. Basically, this is going to auto hit. If once you cast it, if your target is in, you're locked on. You're going to gain the 50 attack range, dealing bonus physical damage, and healing her based on a percentage of the post mitigation damage dealt. Sneak Attack can critically strike. All right, so it's important that all this stuff can critically strike. Sneak Attack deals 120% bonus damage against minions and monsters, another cue that she's in the jungle, with the damage based on the target's health ratio being capped at 500. So you can't ever deal more than 500 damage to dragons, for example. Bonus physical damage. And this is worth noting when you're executing Baron and Herald. This is your reset. You want to try to get this. Auto plus W. The W will be an extra 500 damage. That will get you into your smite threshold. So you're looking to cast this at 1700 to get them under 1200 and time your smite right after. Bonus physical damage. All right. Somewhat negligible with a 105 AD scaling. So basically it's just giving you an extra auto attack with a little bit of a bonus. Plus a massive amount of the target's missing health. All right. 10% base and an extra 4% for every 100 AD. Now, it's very easy to get 200 AD on like 3 items. So when you're on 3 items, you're getting an extra 8. That's 18%. All right. Like we said, though, on monsters, this is still going to be capped at 500. But 1800 is or 18% is a significant chunk of someone's health, right? Especially when we're talking about an execute. So when we're getting to about 85% health, when they're at 15, you can expect them to die from this. Heal percentage is also massive. So it's very important to get this active off, even if it's not the execute, but the later you can do it, the bigger the hit will be, the bigger the bite, and the bigger the chunk of healing, okay? This is the equation for the bonus damage. Now, next, Chilling Scream. Again, 6% of your current health, 18 flat cooldown, all right? Kind of a warning that this is probably a one hit wonder. Cast time, none. But the recast equal to 100% of Briar's attack windup. So basically when you're doing it and letting go, it's always going to take up the frame of a full attack. All right. Range, meaning that it hits somewhat behind her, up to 400 to 600 in front. So 600 being just short of Caitlyn's attack range. So you can basically hit a little bit of what's behind you and then up to what's in front of you. It's very similar to Azir's wall as far as its catch and push. The width is 380, which is fairly wide. Speed is 1900 as you go out. Briar charges for up to 1 second. 1 second's not a long time. And also, since you're not building attack speed, you're basically using this anyways in place of an attack. You're not really losing out on much DPS. During which she increases Chilling Scream's damage and range and gains 35% damage reduction and heals herself every quarter second. So she gets a little bit heal up to 4 stacks. Chilling Scream can be recast within the duration and does so automatically at the end. Chilling Scream charge cannot be interrupted by crowd control, so similar to an Aurelia W. When you recast it, Briar unleashes a scream in the target direction that deals magic damage to enemies hit and slows them by 80% for a half second. If it was charged its full duration, all right, so like a Scion Axe, enemies hit are also knocked back 575 units and are rendered airborne. Okay, this is for your Yasuos. For 1 second. If they collide with terrain, they will rebound, take bonus magic damage, and become knocked up for another half second and stunned for 1.5. So tremendous advantage if you can put someone into a wall with this, and we'll talk about how you can do that. Maximum manage, well, let's go into the heal per tick, all right? So we'll go into the full charge because most of the time you're going to do this full charge. This is a percent of your maximum health. So just by casting it, you're already healing 4%, okay? You lost 6 to cast it, but you healed 10 of your, and this is current health and this is max health. So even if you're at low health, you're going to charge 6% of your, let's say 10 HP. You go down to 4 HP and then you'll gain 200 back just by casting this, all right? Then you can get the full charge amount. The maximum magic damage goes from 80 to 220, fairly low on the plus 35. You get 100% and 100% AP, which is not going to be important since we're not ever touching AP. Bonus magic damage. This is if they collide, 140 plus 75 at each rank, okay? This is insane how much damage this is, and the difference between being able to push someone into a wall is absurd, all right? It's actually 110 and 340% bonus AD on your ratios when you're hitting, making people collide into terrain. So it's absolutely massive to do this. We want to get, in our jungle, we want to get this full charge off. We also can use it to get our heal back. And things like this. Now, certain death, aptly named because somebody's gonna die. Again, 6% current health. The cooldown is somewhat long, but kind of average for top lane fighters. Cast time 1 to 1.25, and you'll see why. The range is 10,000. All right, so basically the entire map. The global effect is global. Frenzy, non-marked target radius. All right, this is gonna explain once you get there who it's going to hit. The fear impact is about 575, which is Varus attack range, or Varus 600, unsure. And then this is going to be your travel speed as you're moving. Briar kicks a hemolith in the target direction that briefly grants sight of its surroundings as it travels and marks the first enemy champion hit as her prey. So basically like an ash arrow, disrupting their ongoing channels and revealing them. Okay, so first thing it's going to do is just hit them, and it stops any big channels, like let's say it's a Scion channeling his axe, boom, it immediately stops it. If a target is hit, and this is so crucial, Briar cleanses herself from all crowd control, destroys her pillory over a little bit of a cast time, which is this right here, and afterwards dashing to them with a displacement immunity, meaning she's unstoppable. Upon arrival, she creates an explosion around the marked target that deals physical damage to them and nearby enemies, and fears all non-marked targets. So not the one you went after, but everyone else that's nearby. Targets for 1.5 seconds. She then enters a state of hematomania. All right, here's the damage. 150, 325, 500. Again, we see some AP scaling. I don't think this is ever going to be enough to want to build something like Gnasher's Tooth. Hematomania. Briar gains all effects of Blood Frenzy, as well as bonus armor and magic resistance equal to 20% AD, lifesteal, and additional bonus movement speed. This is why celerity is so good on her, all right? Because she's going to get this hunting ability, extra lifesteal. Also worth noting that we are getting lifesteal from our passive. We're getting lifesteal. It's not that important to actually build lifesteal on her. You just need more damage and stickiness. So something like Cyrilda's Grudge might be very good. While berserked, Briar prioritizes attacking the marked target over all other units and regardless of range. If that target becomes invalid, she will shift back to her normal targeting priority until the marked target can be attacked again. Hematomania lasts until the marked target dies. Casting Chilling Scream ends it, just like in the other one. Head's Rush cast does not shift her targeting priority during this, okay? So it does during Blood Frenzy, not during the ultimate. This ability is crucial to understand. If there's a Briar on the enemy team, taking Baron is very, very difficult because she will have a virtually guaranteed hit inside the pit with any amount of space control. And when she arrives, it'll be a team-wide fear, okay? 1.5 seconds is a brutal amount for big team fights. And for this reason alone, even though right now people are going to get used to what she can and can't do, the players are going to see and learn the windows they can jump in on and go in. So a couple pitfalls for this champion. One, once you turn on the Blood Frenzy, you can't control her. You can only use the E to cancel it. And the E is one of those things where you kind of really want to find the best opportunity to shove someone into a wall. So judging between whether or not you're going to slam them into a wall or use it to cancel your frenzy is something that you're absolutely going to have to learn. Using the Q, Head Rush, to reposition yourself to dodge an important ability. Let's say you're going after a Syndra, you feared her, you know that you're attacking her, and then you see that she's about to throw Scatter the Weak. And if she hits you, you're probably going to die. So you go in, boom, boom, then you jump over to the minion and dodge her key ability. So you can deal a big chunk of damage and then move over. And then, like we said, the use of the E to reposition. Lots of nuance to this champion. It is a stat check at all times, but as far as the build is concerned, you don't need to get healing. You want movement speed, okay? And you want stickiness. These are the things that are going to be good for her. So something like Stride Breaker is very naturally good. Something like Duskblade of Drakthar is going to be good because she's so non-modal. She's just in, right? And in till dead, then I need to go invulnerability. Something like Death Stance or Duskblade probably needs to be a part of every build. Or we'll talk about in a little bit what like stickier builds that have a lot more tankiness in them. Something like Iceborne Gauntlet to stick on top of someone, but we'll see whether or not those situations ever come up and whether or not they're better than just getting more AD. So that's all the abilities in a rundown. All right, we're going to ignore the percent AP. We're going to use the heal from Chilling Scream, all right, when we need to in the jungle. Q is going to be a nice fast additional hit, and it gives a little bit of armor reduction, but the E is going to be a bigger chunk of damage. So let's take a peek now at what people are having some success with. We're just going to look at jungle because she's just not statted for everything else. Right off the bat, you see that Ghost is here. I think Ghost and Exhaust are going to be the two options. Maybe if it's a hyper healing champion, you get something like Ignite, but usually Exhaust will just do the trick just as well. Ghost scales very well into the end game, and also in the end game when people are kiting, the ability to ghost while you're frenzied is going to be nice. Also, the ability to ignore some amount of tenacity or use tenacity to ignore their attacks is going to be good. But we might have sometimes, if you're going to become a split pusher versus a team that's looking to be a team fight, you do not want to play Briar into team fights. You want to play Briar against split pushers. And if they go to Baron and you're split pushing with Briar, you have a free way back into the map at all times. So when we're going here, I don't mind the red one, Scorchclaw Pup, because when you arrive, it'll have that huge like slow attached to it, 30%, and you'll be able to get everything else off while you're fearing everyone around you. Now we're going to see attack speed and healing, not that good, all right? Early Black Cleaver, great. Duskblade seems to be the best of the mythics, but you see Gore Drinker is also doing fine. The most people are playing Stridebreaker. Blade of the Rune King is kind of ignoring what's going on with the champion, okay? Like you're not really realizing what's happening with the abilities and what's going on. Here's the reference to the AP. Nashor's Tooth has won 1 game out of 13. Small sample size still, but like it's worth noting. Later in the builds, all right, you see Spear of Shojin starting to be very good. You're going to see Guardian Angel be fantastic. Spear continues to be good. The reason for this is that Guardian Angel, you're going to go all in. And like we saw on the passive, if anything dies, she's going to heal for the remainder of those stacks. That'll work while you're in stasis. So you go all in, you die, but someone else on their team dies, you're going to get a lot of your stacks back, including Death's Dance and including the passive. So Guardian Angel is largely going to be paired with Death Dance to be very good into these, especially AD comps, but also when you just go into the fight, you die, you get a massive heal off of anyone dying. That's going to be the best way for you to recharge. You can pair it with something like Spirit Visage, but at that point, if you get both of these, you're actually committing a lot of your resources. I expect Maw of Malmortius to outperform Spirit Visage at almost every iteration, and we can see it right here. Maw versus Spirit Visage. Small sample size, but it's winning more. Maw versus Spirit Visage. Small sample size, but it's winning more. Maw versus Spirit Visage, right? So, like, that should be enough, guys. Pick Maw, not Spirit Visage. And now as far as runes and abilities, level 6, just to get an idea what might be best in the jungle. You see that W, 35, 33, 24. What are these abilities right here? This means you didn't get... All right, this is a Q max. Definitely avoid Q max. Q max seems awful. All right, we already saw that. It's a 1-point wonder. E also looks like a 1-point wonder. Everything points to W being the best, and here it is, like we thought it would be. W-E-W to start. All right, W-E-W, then Q, then W. Max your W, then max your E. There might be situations where you want the faster cooldown on Q. I'm trying to think of a matchup offhand. Someone that has another stun that you'd want to outpace is the only real reason that I could look for it. Most times you're just going to want that massive pop. Looking at the runes, what people are having success with. Again, these numbers are going to be really, really low, but things that are worth noting. Triumph seems like it would be great. Overheal might actually be clutch because you're getting those huge amounts of heal bursts coming in. Having that extra shield and also that extra health to start the fight, I think we're going to be agnostic to which one, but you can see that Overheal is actually outperforming Triumph at the moment. Now, I might have expected Legend Bloodline to be a little bit better, but again, we don't need more blood. We need more attack speed or more tenacity so we get more hits, ergo getting more sustain back, right? All of our hits are going to be healing us for 25% of that stacking bleed damage. So compare that to just getting the health straight. I'd rather deal more damage and then gain most of that health back anyways. You'll see right here that Revitalize is going to have a little bit of a bonus compared to other things. Unflinching, things that make you sticky, like we said. Celerity, all right, kind of low, very low sample size. What will it be compared to extra cooldowns? I'm not very sure, but I do expect Celerity to be one of the better runes, all things told. Attack damage over attack speed. All right, for the jungle, you basically want the extra attack damage anyway, since you're going to be frenzying. You've got more ratios off of AD than you do off of attack speed. I don't think there's going to be a huge difference between these, but I expect there to be a lot of difference once you get into the secondary runes. As far as using your health, very interesting about how much you're going to heal using your max health and using your E as a ratio. You will get a bigger heal off of using health instead of armor, but that said, all of your costs will be a little bit higher as the game goes on. This will be a delicate thing to balance, whether or not you want resistance. I imagine that armor is actually going to end up outperforming, but it's going to be close. All right, so we have our full rundown. Let's go back into the game, get another path training right here. See if we can't clear with just under 330 on our own. Now, Conqueror is doing fine. Lethal Tempo should be fine. Press the Attack should also be fine. If you're going 1v1 side lanes, these two are going to outperform Conqueror. Conqueror is going to be better in those big team fights. You're going to have more AD to get higher stacking. Late in the game, you're probably not going to be able to stack Lethal Tempo in a big team fight. Fleet Footwork, kind of interesting though. You're going to be able to get extra attack speed as we move on. We saw that there are some crit ratios. Maybe there's a world where Storm Razor is actually good. Let's take a peek and see if there's any first or second item Storm Razors. Only 2 Storm Razors. Can't really take data off of that. Prowler's Claw will actually be very interesting because you have multiple dashes and this has a slow attached to it. It's a nice sticky item with a high base AD and lethality. It could be a very good item. No Storm Razors to speak of. There's the Cyrilda's Grudge. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, but take a peek at the boots. All right. The cheapest boots actually have the highest win rate. So 100% we're looking at that. All right. Let's do it without further ado.
Summoner's Rift. 30 seconds until minions spawn.
Okay, we said that this was going to be the base. Full clearing is going to be an option. I do think she's going to be a fantastic early scuffler. You probably want to hunt enemy champions. You have multiple dashes. You have the ability to knock into terrain. So I can easily see a world where you're going to try to get early fights. Right now, we're just going to do the full clear just for testing sake. See what kind of ratio, what kind of speed we can look at. We're going to be doing fully charged E's. We're going to be using W, make sure that we get the executes on it, and try to get as much bonus out of everything as possible. We can also do the attack W. 4, 5, and execute, and we'll do that. Three, 4, 5, execute. Big damage. Now this is kind of a mistake as far as going this far. There's the power of the execute. Could have gotten the smite there, although it doesn't affect where we're going to be going for our next. That should be enough to kill everyone. Now, if we're doing Q, let's take a peek on Q and hit that blast cone, all right? And for this reason alone, that might increase your speed by a half second. You do it twice, right? You can move to your targets. That'll be good enough. Now, let's see. Can we go over this? Yeah, absolutely. Now, you can combo your E with your Q to cancel the animation. You saw what I just did right there. Jump over walls whenever you can. You can cancel all your animations. Now, it doesn't look like I can reposition this, so I'm not even going to try. Like we said, 500 health is going to be our target execute here. Went a little bit early there. And we're out. 330, we still have the abilities. This will be fine. All right, not so bad. You see the low health means that we're going to have less of a threshold for this. Okay, let's get another run. Let's get another path. Also, again, if you're trying to make sure you're the most flexible, getting red second helps you take a peek at bot lane, all the natural jungle adjustments you can make. But if you're going for the fastest clear with the longest red, you want to go to Krugs and then go off to red. Now, something we didn't do was jump over walls with our W. We're going to try that now, starting with red. We're going to go red to Krugs. Now, this might be a champion that it's worth buying an early Doran's Blade, believe it or not. All right. The early spikes from these jungle items, they're actually, non-jungle items. The spiking lane items actually give tremendous stats to junglers if you read them. Doran's shield gives extra regen when you're fighting against monsters. And the Doran's Blade is just a fantastic stat to have in the jungle, especially since junglers have very low access to items early. I don't think we're going to be looking at something like 3 camps into recall like we used to do with Mundo. There was a patch back where Dr. Mundo would take 3 camps, go back, get a Doran's, and no potion, and then you are actually just a tremendous threat. We used the smite early so we'd have the maximum effect on the execute. Ooh, that didn't actually acquire this guy in behind. Interesting. This full healing with the overheal. Oops. Definitely screwed myself up on the damage there. Won't be so bad because we have this travel time anyways. 4, 5, and execute, right? So you get that full extra auto. We'll do here. Always use your E into a Q, sort of like your Aurelia. And we can use that execute when it's lower. We don't want to get caught up in that animation trying to get extra hits, because we don't want to get stuck in auto attacks that we can't cancel because the blood frenzy is still there. Now I can actually probably walk away from these. So there's another 330 done. That's something I haven't tested yet. Let's check this out. Ready? I'm just going to do this. 3, 4, 5, and execute. Now let's see what happens if I just walk away. It was at 280. Look at the bleeding. The bleeding is still going off. Yeah, so you see that deal? Oh, wow. I actually didn't even need to hit it. So from 250, that would have died. 5 seconds extra combat from bleeding. Okay, so let's check it out again here. 4, 5 this. And I'm just gonna walk away. 190, 200 damage. Let's see if it dies. Yeah, it would have died. Do it again here. There's your combo, E into QW. Alright, 280. Let's see, we walk away. We don't deal a damage again. How much is it going to die? 280, it's still bleeding. There's the last two. Alright, so yeah, it lost 200 health, guys. That's so important to know. Yeah, there we go. Again, it's not acquiring. So the 100 is kind of shallow, if we're being honest. They're pretty small. Now, I would never cast W here, because you'll get stuck in those animations hitting everybody for that whole time. Okay? So, hopefully that gives you guys some insights into the champion. Have some fun with her on the Rift. Have a big advantage. She is a scaling god, all right? But she's scaling in the side lanes. Those big team fights are not going to be the biggest source unless you can get that 4th item where you're going DD plus GA. I highly recommend getting Black Cleaver and getting Spear of Shojin. And then you get the mythic that fits the game. This is a champion that is pretty agnostic to the mythics. Could even be Even Shroud that ends up popping up Iceborne Gauntlet for stickiness and being able to tank a little bit longer. These are all options. Stride Breaker seems to be the one that jumps out. And if you do need to be that team fight, like Engager, or not, I don't want to even say Engager. If you're playing more like the Assassin, you already have tanks, and you're going off to hunt and find someone and get them, Duskblade of Drakthar makes a lot of sense, where you might be going into like a 1v2, get the 1 kill, get your reset, and then pop out. And go from there. But she doesn't really benefit that much from going invis. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Good luck on the Rift. I'll catch you next time. Peace.